Welcome to Sleep with Stories. Hello there, and welcome to the Sleep with Stories channel. I'm so glad you found your way here. Maybe you had a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who likes falling asleep to the rustle of leaves and the deep, ancient rhythms of the wild rather than counting sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is for you. You've got nothing to do but rest. Let your mind relax, your breathing slow, and your body grow heavy, as if you are sinking into a bed of soft, damp moss. Because tonight, we aren't just walking through the woods. We are drifting through the hidden intelligence of the natural world. A vast, breathing tapestry of life that has been weaving itself together for billions of years. We will travel from the silent communication of the wood wide web to the bioluminescent depths of the midnight sea, exploring the mysteries of creatures that live forever and forests that remember the past. Now let's begin. The silent language of the wood wide web. Deep beneath the forest floor, a silent and complex network of fungal threads known as mycelium connects every tree in a woodland, creating what scientists call the wood wide web. This invisible architecture allows trees to communicate with one another, sharing vital nutrients like carbon and nitrogen with neighbors that are struggling or in the shade. It is a system of profound cooperation where older mother trees can recognize their own kin and send them extra sugar through the soil to help them survive. When a tree is attacked by insects, it can even release chemical signals into this network to warn nearby trees to bolster their immune systems before the threat arrives, proving that a forest is not just a collection of individuals, but a single, thinking community that looks after its own. The living stars of the midnight zone. In the deepest parts of the ocean, where the sun's light cannot reach and the pressure is enough to crush bone, life creates its own light through a process called bioluminescence. Nearly 75% of deep-sea creatures are capable of this biological glow, using chemical reactions to shimmer in neon blues, greens, and reds. Some use these lights as lures to hunt, like the predatory anglerfish, while others use them as a burglar alarm to reveal their predators to even larger hunters. In this perpetual midnight, the water is filled with marine snow, organic detritus drifting down from the surface, and the only stars to be seen are the living ones pulsing in the cold, dark currents of the abyss. The creature that outruns time. There is a species of jellyfish known as Turritopsis dohrnii that has discovered the secret to biological immortality. When this tiny creature faces physical damage, starvation, or the natural decline of old age, it does not die in the traditional sense. Instead, it undergoes a process called transdifferentiation. Its cells begin to transform, reverting the adult jellyfish back into a polyp, the earliest stage of its life cycle, effectively resetting its biological clock to zero. It then begins its life all over again as a young clone of its former self. This cycle can theoretically continue forever, making it a creature that exists outside the normal boundaries of time and decay, drifting through the oceans in a state of eternal return. The sky within the rainforest. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there are places where the trees are so dense that the ground remains in a state of permanent twilight, and it takes nearly 10 minutes for a single raindrop to travel from the high canopy to the forest floor. This vertical world is divided into distinct layers, each with its own climate and inhabitants, from the emergent giants that pierce the clouds to the dark, humid understory. Because the canopy is so thick, it creates its own weather system, transpiring moisture into the atmosphere that eventually falls back as rain, meaning the forest is effectively watering itself in a continuous, self-sustaining loop of life and mist. The secret hearing of the meadow. Most people think of plants as passive observers of the world, but many species possess a sophisticated sense of hearing and can respond to the specific vibrations of their environment. Research has shown that certain flowers will increase the sugar concentration in their nectar within minutes of hearing the wing beats of a passing bee, ensuring they are more attractive to pollinators. Some plants can even distinguish between the sound of a gentle breeze and the specific acoustic signature of a caterpillar chewing on a leaf. When the vibration of a predator is detected, the plant may flood its leaves with bitter toxins or release scents that attract wasps to attack the caterpillars, showing that the silence of a garden is actually full of hidden conversations and rapid reactions. The metropolis built by pinheads. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest living structure on Earth, so massive that it can be seen from outer space, yet it is built by billions of tiny organisms called coral polyps that are barely the size of a pinhead. These polyps are engineers of the sea, secreting calcium carbonate to build elaborate limestone skeletons that serve as the foundation for an entire ecosystem. Within their tissues, they host microscopic algae in a symbiotic relationship. The algae provide food through photosynthesis, while the coral provides a safe home. This collaboration is what gives the reefs their vibrant, psychedelic colors, creating a submerged metropolis that supports a quarter of all marine life despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor. The sparkle of diamond dust. In the frozen reaches of the Arctic and Antarctic, a phenomenon known as diamond dust occurs when the air is so cold and still that water vapor condenses directly into tiny, needle-like ice crystals that float near the ground. Unlike snow, which falls in flakes, diamond dust lingers in the air like a glittering mist, catching the low winter sun and creating spectacular optical illusions like sundogs and light pillars. As you walk through it, the air seems to sparkle as if the atmosphere itself is made of crushed jewels, a quiet and freezing magic that only reveals itself when the temperature drops far below freezing and the world falls into a deep, icy hush. The ancestral compass of the monarchs. The migration of the monarch butterfly is one of the most mysterious journeys in the natural world, involving a trek of over 3,000 miles from Canada to a specific cluster of oyamel fir trees in the mountains of central Mexico. What makes this journey truly miraculous is that the butterflies that arrive in Mexico have never been there before. It takes 4 to 5 generations to complete the full annual cycle. Somehow, the great-great-grandchildren of the previous year's migrants know exactly which trees to find, guided by an internal solar compass and a genetic memory that tells them where to sleep. Thousands of butterflies will huddle together on a single branch, their orange wings creating a living blanket that keeps them warm until the spring awakens them once more. The forest with a single soul. High in the mountains, the Pando Aspen Grove in Utah appears to be a massive forest of 47,000 individual trees, but in reality, it is one of the oldest and largest single living organisms on the planet. Every tree in the 106-acre grove is a genetic clone, all sharing a single massive underground root system that has survived for an estimated 80,000 years. When one tree dies, the root system simply sends up a new sprout to take its place. Because they are all part of the same being, the entire forest turns the same shade of brilliant gold at the exact same moment in the autumn, a synchronized display of a singular life force that has watched the rise and fall of civilizations from the silence of its roots. The global pulse of the storms. The Earth's atmosphere is not a static layer of gas, but a rushing river of air that hums with the energy of over 2,000 thunderstorms happening simultaneously across the globe at any given moment. These storms act as a giant electrical circuit, maintaining the planet's atmospheric charge through lightning strikes that occur roughly 100 times every second. This constant electrical activity helps produce ozone and nitrogen oxides, which are essential for the health of our air and the fertility of our soil. Even on a clear, quiet night, the sky above you is part of a global symphony of energy, a restless and powerful system that keeps the earth breathing and balanced. The ancient breath of the baobab. Standing like inverted giants against the African horizon, baobab trees are some of the most enduring living monuments on our planet. Often called the tree of life, these massive structures can live for over 2,000 years, their trunks swelling to enormous proportions to store up to 120,000 liters of water to survive harsh droughts. Because they lack traditional growth rings, Their age must be determined through radiocarbon dating, revealing that some began their life before the Roman Empire reached its peak. At night, they bloom with waxy white flowers that smell of fermented fruit, attracting fruit bats that navigate by moonlight to drink their nectar. These trees are not just plants. They are vertical reservoirs and hollowed-out sanctuaries that have sheltered travelers and animals for dozens of centuries, breathing slowly through the heat of the savanna. The mystery of the sailing stones. In the flat, sun-baked expanse of Death Valley's racetrack playa, heavy stones weighing hundreds of pounds appear to move across the desert floor on their own, leaving long, winding trails behind them in the cracked mud. For decades, no one saw them move, leading to theories of magnetic fields or mysterious winds. We now know that during rare winter rains, a thin layer of water freezes into a window pane of ice around the rocks. When the sun begins to melt the ice into floating panels, even a light breeze can push the massive stones across the slippery surface. It is a patient, invisible choreography that happens only once every few years, a reminder that even the heaviest objects can drift like autumn leaves when the conditions of the earth align in perfect, quiet harmony. The hidden intelligence of the slime mold. Neither a plant, an animal, nor a fungus, the yellow slime mold known as Physarum polycephalum is a single-celled organism that possesses a form of brainless intelligence. Despite having no central nervous system, this creeping membrane can solve complex mazes, remember the location of food sources, and even map out the most efficient routes between points, matching the design of human subway systems in a fraction of the time. It communicates with itself by leaving behind a trail of chemical memory in the form of translucent slime, letting it know where it has already explored. It is a living proof that consciousness and problem-solving do not require a brain, but can exist as a flowing, pulsating rhythm within the very fabric of a cell. The silent migration of the eels. Every year, millions of European and American eels leave their freshwater rivers and embark on a perilous, one-way journey across the Atlantic Ocean to the Sargasso Sea, a region of the North Atlantic surrounded only by ocean currents. They swim thousands of miles into the deep, dark pressure of the salt water, guided by the Earth's magnetic field, to spawn and die in the same place they were born. Their offspring, tiny transparent larvae known as glass eels, then spend years drifting on the Gulf Stream back toward the rivers of their ancestors. No human has ever witnessed the eels spawning in the wild. It remains one of the ocean's most guarded secrets, a life cycle built on a deep, ancestral pull that spans an entire ocean and ends in the silent, seaweed-choked heart of the Atlantic, the bioluminescent forest of the sky. On certain humid nights in the tropical forests of Asia and South America, the ground itself begins to glow with a soft, ethereal green light known as foxfire. This light comes from bioluminescent fungi that consume decaying wood, creating a chemical reaction that glows continuously without heat. While many creatures use light to hunt or hide, these fungi use their radiance to attract night-flying insects, which then crawl over the mushrooms and carry their spores to new parts of the forest. Walking through these woods is like stepping into a reflected galaxy, where the stars are not in the sky but scattered across the damp earth and rotting logs, a silent fire that burns cold in the heart of the jungle. The song of the singing sands. In certain remote deserts around the world, the sand dunes possess a voice, emitting a low, droning hum that can reach the volume of a low-flying plane. This singing sand occurs when the grains are of a specific size and silica content, and they slide against one another during a windstorm or a landslide. The friction creates a synchronized vibration that resonates through the dune like the string of a giant cello. Some dunes sing in a single note, while others produce a complex chord that can last for several minutes. To stand among these shifting hills is to feel the ground vibrate beneath your feet, a deep, tectonic melody that has echoed through the empty quarters of the world for millennia. the underground architects of the savanna. Mound-building termites are among the most sophisticated architects in nature, constructing towering mud structures that can reach 9 meters in height. These mounds are not actually where the termites live. Instead, they serve as a complex climate control system for the colony living deep underground. The internal chimneys and vents are designed to capture the slightest breeze, regulating the temperature and oxygen levels so precisely that they can maintain a constant environment even when the outside temperature swings by 40 degrees. This passive cooling system is so efficient that human architects have begun to study it to design skyscrapers that require no air conditioning, proving that some of the world's most advanced engineering comes from the collective instinctual mind of a tiny, blind insect. The electric sense of the platypus. The platypus is a creature of contradictions, but its most mysterious trait is its ability to see with electricity. Because it hunts at night in murky river bottoms, it closes its eyes, ears, and nostrils while underwater. Instead, its bill is covered in thousands of sensitive cells called electroreceptors that can detect the tiny electrical pulses generated by the muscle contractions of its prey, such as a shrimp or a worm. This sixth sense allows it to navigate a pitch-black world by sensing the electrical aura of life itself. It is a master of a hidden spectrum, drifting through the river currents and reacting to the silent, invisible sparks of the living world that surround it in the dark. The frozen sleep of the wood frog. In the forests of Alaska and Canada, the wood frog survives the brutal winter by doing something that would be fatal to almost any other creature. It allows itself to freeze solid. As the temperature drops, the frog's body produces high concentrations of glucose that act as a natural antifreeze, protecting its cells from bursting. Its heart stops beating, its breathing ceases, and its brain activity flatlines for months at a time. To the touch, it is as hard as a stone, a tiny statue of ice buried beneath the leaf litter. When the spring sun finally warms the ground, the frog thaws from the inside out. Its heart begins to pulse once more, and it hops away as if it had simply been napping for an afternoon. The infinite memory of the water. In the high-altitude glaciers of the Himalayas and the Antarctic ice sheets, there are pockets of air and water trapped within the ice that have been sealed away for over 1 million years. These ice cores are the Earth's library, preserving the exact chemical composition of the atmosphere from a time before humans existed. Within these frozen bubbles are ancient pollens, volcanic ash from prehistoric eruptions, and even the traces of ancient wildfires. As these glaciers slowly move and melt, they release this ancient information back into the world, a slow-release memory of a planet that has seen ice ages come and go, reminding us that nothing is ever truly lost. It is simply waiting in the cold, blue silence of the ice. The ghostly glow of the aurora. In the far reaches of the North and South Poles, the night sky often ignites with shimmering curtains of green, violet, and crimson light. This celestial display, known as the aurora borealis in Australis, is the result of a cosmic collision between the Earth's magnetic field and charged particles streaming from the sun. These solar winds travel at speeds of over 1 million miles per hour, crashing into the gases of our upper atmosphere. When they hit oxygen, they glow green or red. When they strike nitrogen, they shimmer in deep blues and purples. From the ground, it looks like a silent, ethereal dance, a visual reminder that our planet is shielded by an invisible magnetic cocoon, catching the fiery breath of the sun and turning it into a hauntingly beautiful neon light show that ripples across the stars. The floating rivers of the atmosphere. Far above our heads, invisible rivers of water vapor are flowing through the sky, carrying more water than the Amazon River. These atmospheric rivers are narrow bands of concentrated moisture that can stretch for thousands of miles across the oceans. When one of these rivers makes landfall and is pushed upward by a mountain range, the vapor cools and condenses, releasing staggering amounts of rain or snow. These sky rivers are responsible for most of the water supply in regions like the western United States, acting as a global conveyor belt that moves life-giving moisture from the humid tropics to the thirsty corners of the world. They remind us that the sky is not just empty space, but a vast, flowing ocean of vapor that dictates the rhythm of life below. The volcanoes that breathe ice. While most volcanoes on Earth spew molten rock and ash, there are moons in our solar system, and perhaps hidden corners of our own deep past, that feature cryovolcanoes. Instead of lava, these vents erupt with a freezing slurry of water, ammonia, and methane. On Saturn's moon Enceladus, these ice volcanoes blast plumes of water vapor and ice crystals hundreds of miles into space, some of which fall back as snow, while others contribute to the rings of the planet itself. These eruptions suggest that even in the coldest reaches of the universe, there is internal heat and liquid water, the primary ingredients for life, churning beneath a shell of ice, proving that the fires of creation don't always have to be hot. The ancient salt of the earth. Deep beneath the surface of the earth, there are vast cathedrals of salt that have remained untouched for over 250 million years. These deposits are the remains of ancient superseas that evaporated long before the first dinosaurs walked the earth. In places like the Wieliczka salt mine in Poland or the deep basins of the Mediterranean, the salt has compressed into a rock-hard substance that preserves everything within it, including tiny bubbles of ancient air and prehistoric bacteria that can sometimes be revived in a laboratory. Walking through these subterranean salt halls is like stepping back into a dry, crystalline version of a forgotten ocean, where the very walls are made of the minerals that once tasted the sunlight of a Permian afternoon. The midnight sun and the polar night. At the very top and bottom of our world, the rhythm of day and night breaks away from the rest of the planet. During the summer solstice, the sun never sets, circling the horizon in a 24-hour loop of golden twilight known as the midnight sun. Conversely, in the deep winter, the sun never rises, leaving the landscape in a polar night that lasts for months. This occurs because the Earth is tilted on its axis, leaning toward or away from the sun as it travels through space. In these regions, animals and plants have evolved internal clocks that don't rely on the rising sun, instead following the long, slow heartbeat of the seasons, living in a world where time is measured not in hours, but in months of light and shadow. The deep time of the Grand Canyon. The walls of the Grand Canyon are a vertical library of Earth's history, with the oldest rocks at the bottom dating back nearly 2 billion years. As you descend the canyon trails, you are literally walking backward through time, passing through layers of ancient deserts, tropical seas, and volcanic plains. However, there is a mysterious gap in the record known as the Great Unconformity, where nearly 1 billion years of rock layers are simply missing, eroded away before the next layers could form. It is a massive missing chapter in the story of our planet, a silent void in the stone that reminds us that the Earth is as good at erasing its history as it is at preserving it. The living clouds of the starling murmuration. In the late autumn, the skies of Europe and North America are often filled with murmurations, thousands of starlings flying in a single, fluid mass that looks like a giant puff of smoke or a living liquid. These birds do not have a leader. Instead, each bird follows a simple set of rules, reacting to the movement of its 6 closest neighbors in a fraction of a second. This collective intelligence allows the flock to change direction instantly, creating beautiful, swirling patterns that confuse predators like hawks. It is a masterpiece of biological math, where thousands of individual heartbeats synchronize into a single, pulsing entity that flows across the sunset like a dream. The hidden caves of the giant crystals. Deep beneath the Chihuahuan Desert in Mexico lies the Cave of the Crystals, a chamber filled with some of the largest natural crystals ever discovered. These translucent gypsum beams can reach lengths of over 36 feet and weigh up to 55 tons. The cave remained hidden for millennia because it was flooded with extremely hot, mineral-rich water that allowed the crystals to grow undisturbed for 500,000 years. The environment inside is so hostile, with nearly 100% humidity and temperatures over 58 degrees Celsius, that humans can only survive inside for a few minutes without specialized gear. It is a fortress of geometry, a silent, glittering world where time has literally solidified into pillars of light, the rain that never reaches the ground. In the hottest deserts, you can sometimes see dark streaks of rain hanging from the clouds, but the ground remains bone dry. This phenomenon is called virga. It happens when rain falls into a layer of extremely dry, hot air and evaporates before it can finish its journey to the earth. To the observer, it looks like the clouds have grown long, wispy gray hair that disappears into the heat haze. It is a reminder of the incredible power of the atmosphere to recycle its own moisture. A ghostly rain that teases the thirsty earth with the promise of water that vanishes into thin air. The pulse of the Earth's lightning. While a single lightning bolt is a violent explosion of energy, the planet as a whole experiences a constant, rhythmic pulse of electricity. Between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, there is a continuous electromagnetic resonance known as the Schumann resonance. It hums at a frequency of roughly 7.83 Hz, triggered by the thousands of lightning strikes happening around the globe every minute. This low-frequency hum is the heartbeat of our planet's electrical system, an invisible vibration that surrounds everything living on Earth. It is a silent, constant background note in the symphony of nature, a reminder that we are all living within a vast, energized field of cosmic and terrestrial power. The ancient wisdom of the bristlecone pines. High in the White Mountains of California, where the air is thin and the wind bites with a prehistoric chill, live the Great Basin bristlecone pines. These are not merely trees. They are the oldest non-clonal living beings on Earth, with some individuals like the one nicknamed Methuselah having lived for over 4,800 years. They were saplings when the first pyramids were being raised in Egypt, and they have stood silently through the rise and fall of every major human empire. Their wood is so dense and resinous that it is nearly impervious to rot, insects, and even fire. They grow with an agonizing slowness, sometimes adding only an inch of girth every 100 years, resulting in twisted, gnarled shapes that look like living sculptures of orange and gold. To sit among them is to experience a different kind of time, a slow, patient endurance that makes a human life seem like a single, fleeting heartbeat in the mountain air. The mystery of the dragon's blood trees. On the remote island of Socotra, located in the Indian Ocean, grows a tree that looks as if it belonged on another planet. The dragon's blood tree possesses a distinct, umbrella-like canopy of stiff, sword-shaped leaves designed to catch the morning mist and funnel it down to the roots in a landscape where rain is a rare blessing. Its name comes from the thick, crimson resin that bleeds from its bark when cut, a substance that was once prized by ancient alchemists and Roman gladiators as a powerful dye and medicine. These trees create a surreal, prehistoric forest canopy that provides shade for rare plants found nowhere else on the globe. They are survivors of a world that has largely vanished, standing as crimson-veined guardians of an island that time and evolution forgot. The secret life of the petrified forest. In the high deserts of Arizona, there is a forest where the trees have literally turned into jewels. Millions of years ago, a massive flood swept a forest of conifers into a swampy basin, burying them under thick layers of volcanic ash and silt. Over the eons, the organic wood cells were slowly replaced by silica, iron, and manganese carried by groundwater, transforming the logs into solid quartz and jasper. Today, these fallen giants lie scattered across the desert floor as glittering segments of stone, their bark and growth rings perfectly preserved in shades of violet, amber, and indigo. It is a cemetery of light, where a forest that once breathed and swayed in a tropical breeze has been immortalized into a landscape of indestructible color. The wood that floats on air. Deep in the rainforests of Central and South America lives the balsa tree, a botanical marvel of efficiency and speed. While most trees take decades or centuries to reach maturity, the balsa can grow up to 30 meters in just a few years, shooting upward to claim its place in the sun. Its secret lies in its cellular structure. The wood is composed of large, thin-walled cells filled with water while the tree is alive. Once harvested and dried, these cells become hollow air pockets, making balsa one of the lightest and strongest woods in the world. It is the world's most natural foam, a material so buoyant and airy that it was used by ancient navigators to build rafts that could cross entire oceans, proving that nature's strength often comes from what is empty rather than what is solid. The underground orchards of the fairy circles. In the arid grasslands of the Namib Desert, the earth is covered in millions of mysterious fairy circles. Bare, circular patches of soil surrounded by a ring of lush grass that never seems to grow inward. For centuries, folklore attributed them to the footsteps of gods or the breath of dragons. But modern science suggests a more complex story of competition and engineering. Some believe they are the work of sand termites that clear vegetation to create water traps in the soil, while others see them as a result of plants self-organizing into patterns to maximize limited moisture. Regardless of the cause, these circles create a honeycomb pattern that stretches for hundreds of miles, a silent and geometric puzzle written into the skin of the desert. The carnivorous hunger of the sundew. While most plants seek their sustenance from the sun and the soil, the sundew is a delicate predator that has turned to a diet of flesh to survive in nutrient-poor bogs. Its leaves are covered in hundreds of tiny, hair-like tentacles, each tipped with a glistening drop of sticky mucilage that looks like a bead of morning dew. When a fly or a gnat lands, attracted by the shimmering light, it becomes hopelessly ensnared in the biological glue. The tentacles then slowly curl inward, sensitive to the slightest touch, and the entire leaf folds over the insect like a closing fist. The plant then releases digestive enzymes to dissolve its prey, absorbing the nitrogen it needs to thrive in a world of water and moss. A reminder that the quietest corners of nature often hide the most sophisticated hunters. The whispering bamboo forests. Bamboo is not a tree, but a giant grass, and it holds the record for the fastest growing plant on the planet. Some species can grow nearly 3 feet in a single 24-hour period, a speed so rapid that you can almost hear the stalks creaking as they stretch toward the sky. Because a bamboo forest is often a single interconnected root system, thousands of stalks can emerge at once, creating a dense, green cathedral of hollow pipes. When the wind moves through a bamboo grove, the stalks sway and knock against one another, producing a hollow, percussive music that sounds like 1,000 wooden flutes playing in unison. It is a landscape of constant motion and sound, a vibrant, flexible world that bends but never breaks in the mountain storms. The resurrection plant of the desert. In the scorched deserts of the American Southwest, there is a plant called the Selaginella, or the resurrection plant, that has mastered the art of cheating death. During periods of extreme drought, the plant loses up to 95% of its water, curling its branches inward into a tight, brown ball that looks like a tumbleweed of dead twigs. It can remain in this dormant, desiccated state for years, blowing across the sand in a state of suspended animation. However, the moment it touches a pool of water, its cells begin to rehydrate with astonishing speed. Within hours, the brown ball unfurls, turning a vibrant, lush green as its metabolic engines roar back to life. It is a biological miracle of renewal, a plant that can die 1,000 times and wait patiently for the single drop of rain that brings it back to the world. The living bridges of Meghalaya. In the wettest place on earth, the Khasi people of Meghalaya, India, do not build their bridges out of steel or stone. They grow them. By guiding the aerial roots of the Ficus elastica, the rubber tree, across river gaps using hollowed-out bamboo trunks, they create living root bridges. Over decades, the roots grow thick and strong, eventually knitting into the earth on the opposite bank to form a bridge that can support the weight of 50 people at once. Unlike man-made structures that rot in the constant tropical rain, these bridges actually grow stronger and more resilient as they age, some lasting for over 500 years. They are a testament to a deep, slow partnership between human patience and the relentless, creeping strength of the forest. The giants of the kelp forest. Beneath the cold, surging waves of the Pacific Ocean lies a forest made of gold and amber. Giant kelp is one of the fastest-growing organisms in the sea, capable of shooting up from the ocean floor to the surface at a rate of 2 feet per day. These underwater towers are held upright by tiny, gas-filled bladders at the base of each blade, creating a vertical labyrinth that can reach heights of 150 feet. This submerged canopy provides a sanctuary for sea otters, which wrap themselves in the kelp fronds to keep from drifting away while they sleep. To drift through a kelp forest is to see the sunlight filtered into shimmering green rays, a world of constant, fluid motion where the trees are made of water and the forest floor is a carpet of sea stars and urchins. The architectural genius of the weaver ants. In the humid canopies of tropical forests, weaver ants perform a feat of engineering that requires the collective coordination of thousands of individuals. To build their nests, these ants do not simply dig or scavenge. They sew. Workers form living chains, grabbing onto one another's waists to pull 2 large leaves together with incredible strength. Once the edges are touching, other workers carry the colony's larvae between their jaws. These larvae produce a special, high-strength silk that the adults use like a glue gun, weaving the silk back and forth across the leaf edges to bind them into a sturdy, waterproof pouch. This silk is so strong that the resulting nests can withstand monsoon winds and heavy rains, creating a suspended city of green that protects the queen and her brood high above the predators of the forest floor. The solar-powered hornet. The oriental hornet possesses a secret hidden within the yellow bands of its abdomen, a biological solar cell. While most wasps are active in the early morning, this hornet thrives in the peak heat of the afternoon sun. Scientists discovered that the yellow pigment, called xanthopterin, actually absorbs light and converts it into electrical energy. This energy is stored in the hornet's body, helping to power its metabolism and provide the extra stamina needed for digging and foraging in the intense heat. It is a rare example of an animal that has partially bypassed the need for food by harvesting the raw energy of the stars, a winged suncatcher that moves with the power of the midday sky. The magnetic map of the honeybee. Honeybees are master navigators that possess a built-in compass made of tiny crystals of magnetite located in their abdomens. This allows them to sense the Earth's magnetic field, helping them find their way back to the hive across miles of unfamiliar territory, even on cloudy days when the sun is hidden. Furthermore, they communicate the location of distant flower patches through the waggle dance, a series of precise movements that indicate the distance and direction of the food source relative to the sun. Within the dark, crowded hive, this dance is translated by other bees through touch and vibration, a complex language of geometry and physics that ensures the entire colony can feast on the bounty of a single, secret meadow. The infinite symmetry of the snowflake. Every winter, trillions of masterpieces fall from the sky, and yet no two are exactly alike. A snowflake begins as a single microscopic speck of dust or pollen around which water vapor condenses into a hexagonal ice crystal. As the crystal falls through different layers of temperature and humidity, its 6 arms grow and branch in response to the specific atmospheric conditions it encounters. because every snowflake follows a slightly different path through the clouds. Each one develops a unique, complex geometry. They are tiny records of the weather's history, frozen moments of symmetry that remind us that even in the middle of a chaotic storm, nature creates order and beauty on a scale too small for the human eye to see. The underground cities of the leafcutter ants. Beneath the floor of the South American rainforest lies a civilization that rivals human cities in its complexity. Leafcutter ants are the world's first farmers, having cultivated fungus gardens for over 50 million years. They do not eat the leaves they carry. Instead, they use them as fertilizer for vast, underground fungal chambers. A single colony can contain up to 8 million individuals and feature sophisticated ventilation shafts that act as air conditioning to keep the fungus at the perfect temperature. These ants have specialized roles, from massive soldiers that guard the tunnels to tiny minims that ride on the leaves to fend off parasitic flies. It is a sprawling, subterranean empire fueled by recycled greenery and a collective intelligence that never sleeps. The master of disguise, the orchid mantis. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, what appears to be a beautiful, blooming orchid is often a deadly predator in wait. The orchid mantis has evolved a body that perfectly mimics the petals of a flower, with legs shaped like lobes of a blossom and a color that shifts between delicate pink and brilliant white. Unlike other camouflaged animals that hide to avoid being seen, the orchid mantis uses aggressive mimicry to attract its prey. Pollinating insects, looking for a sip of nectar, fly directly toward the mantis, only to be snatched out of the air by its lightning-fast front legs. It is a living trap made of elegance, a reminder that in nature, the most beautiful sights can often be the most dangerous. The synchronized fireflies of the mangroves. In the riverbanks of Southeast Asia and certain forests in the Smoky Mountains, thousands of fireflies gather to perform a miracle of synchronization. Normally, fireflies flash at random, but these specific species begin to pulse in perfect unison until the entire forest edge is breathing with a single, rhythmic heartbeat of light. This behavior is thought to help females find males in the dense darkness, but for the observer, it is a mesmerizing display of collective harmony. Thousands of tiny, bioluminescent pulses start and stop at the exact same millisecond, turning the dark trees into a shimmering wall of gold that flickers in time with the quiet pulse of the river. The chemical defense of the bombardier beetle. The bombardier beetle carries a high-tech chemistry lab inside its abdomen. When threatened by a predator, it mixes two chemical compounds, hydroquinone and hydrogen peroxide, stored in separate reservoirs. The resulting reaction is explosive, heating the liquid to nearly 100 degrees Celsius, the boiling point of water. The beetle then sprays the scalding, toxic mist out of a turret-like appendage that can aim in any direction. The spray is released in rapid-fire pulses, accompanied by a distinct pop sound that startles the attacker. It is a violent and precise defense mechanism that allows a tiny beetle to drive away much larger creatures, a master of chemical warfare in the undergrowth. The migration of the painted lady. While the monarch butterfly gets much of the fame, the painted lady butterfly completes an even more epic journey. Every year, these delicate insects migrate from the fringes of the Sahara Desert, across the Mediterranean Sea, and up into the Arctic Circle, a round trip of up to 9,000 miles. They fly at high altitudes, hitching rides on fast-moving wind currents that carry them across thousands of miles of open ocean. Like the monarchs, this journey spans multiple generations, with each butterfly following an ancestral map etched into its DNA. They are the world's most widely distributed butterfly, found on every continent except Antarctica and South America, a testament to the endurance of life in the face of vast, unforgiving distances. The eternal rhythm of the cicada. In the eastern United States, Certain species of cicadas live a life defined by the number 17. These periodical cicadas spend 17 years underground in total darkness, clinging to tree roots and sipping sap. Then, as if responding to a silent, synchronized alarm, millions of them emerge all at once when the soil reaches a specific temperature. They shed their skins, take to the trees, and fill the air with a deafening, buzzing song that can be heard for miles. After only a few weeks of frantic activity, they lay their eggs and die, leaving the next generation to disappear back into the earth for another nearly 2 decades. This prime number life cycle is an evolutionary strategy to overwhelm predators, a long, patient wait for a few brief weeks of sunlight and sound. The navigation of the bar-tailed godwit. The bar-tailed godwit performs a feat of endurance that defies everything we know about animal limits. Every autumn, these birds take off from the mudflats of Alaska and fly south to New Zealand, a journey of over 12,000 kilometers completed in a single, non-stop flight. They do not glide, they do not soar, and they do not land on the water to rest or eat. For 11 days and nights, they flap their wings continuously, crossing the vast, featureless Pacific Ocean. To prepare, the birds double their body weight in fat and actually shrink their internal organs, including their digestive system, to save weight and make room for fuel. Guided by the stars and the Earth's magnetic field, they navigate with such precision that they can find a single tiny estuary on a distant island after traveling halfway across the globe, a journey of pure, relentless willpower written in the wind. The lyrebird's living record of the forest. In the damp fern gullies of Australia, the superb lyrebird acts as a living tape recorder for the natural world. While most birds have a specific song, the lyrebird has the most complex syrinx, vocal organ, of any songbird, allowing it to mimic almost any sound it hears with perfect fidelity. It weaves the songs of dozens of other bird species into its own elaborate performance, but its talent doesn't stop at nature. Lyrebirds have been recorded perfectly mimicking the sound of chainsaws, camera shutters, car alarms, and even the pew-pew sounds of 1980s video games. By listening to a lyrebird, you are hearing a history of the forest, a layered, acoustic map of every creature and human intruder that has passed through the trees, preserved in a shimmering, liquid melody. The hummingbird's heart of fire. The hummingbird is a creature that lives its life at the very edge of biological possibility. Its heart beats up to 1,200 times per minute, and its wings beat so fast, up to 80 times per second, that they become a blur of iridescent light. This high-speed lifestyle requires so much energy that a hummingbird must consume more than its own body weight in nectar every single day. If a human had the metabolism of a hummingbird, they would need to eat 150 kilograms of meat every day to survive. To keep from starving during the night, the hummingbird enters a state of torpor, dropping its body temperature and slowing its heart rate to a mere 50 beats per minute. It is a tiny, feathered engine that burns with a fierce intensity, dancing between total exhaustion and frantic, nectar-fueled joy. The emperor penguins huddle in the dark. In the heart of the Antarctic winter, where temperatures drop to minus 60 degrees Celsius and the sun disappears for months, the emperor penguin performs a miracle of social cooperation. While the females are away at sea, the males balance a single egg on their feet, tucked beneath a warm fold of skin. To survive the screaming blizzards, thousands of males form a huddle, a giant, rotating circle of feathers and warmth. The birds on the outside, exposed to the wind, slowly work their way toward the warm center, while those in the middle eventually move back to the edge to take their turn in the cold. It is a perfectly fair, self-organizing system where no individual is left to freeze alone, a testament to the power of community in the most hostile environment on Earth. The owl's silent wings of shadow. While most birds create a distinct whooshing sound as they fly, the owl is a master of absolute silence. This is because their feathers have evolved a specialized comb on the leading edge and a soft, velvety fringe on the trailing edge. These structures break up the air into tiny, microturbulences that muffle the sound of the wings cutting through the wind. This acoustic camouflage allows the owl to fly inches away from a mouse without the prey ever hearing a sound, while also allowing the owl to use its incredibly sensitive ears to pinpoint the rustle of a leaf in the dark. In the moonlit woods, the owl is a ghost of shadow, a predator that moves in a world where sound has been erased by the perfection of its feathers. The hoatzin, the bird that remembers the past. Deep in the swamps of the Amazon and Orinoco basins lives the hoatzin, a bird so strange that it is often called a living fossil. It is the only bird in the world that digests leaves using bacterial fermentation in its crop, much like a cow or a sheep, giving it a distinct, musky odor often described as manure. Even more mysterious are the chicks. They are born with 2 functional claws on each wing. If a predator approaches, the chick will drop out of the nest and dive into the water below. Once the danger passes, it uses its wing claws to climb back up the tree like a tiny reptile. These claws are lost as the bird matures, but they remain a haunting echo of the ancient, clawed ancestors from which all birds descended. The bowerbird's gallery of blue. In the forests of New Guinea and Australia, the male satin bowerbird does not build a nest to attract a mate. He builds an art gallery. He spends weeks constructing a bower, 2 parallel walls of sticks, and then meticulously decorates the courtyard with objects he has scavenged. These birds have an obsessive preference for the color blue, collecting blue feathers, flowers, berries, and even human trash like bottle caps and straws. He will spend hours arranging these items, moving a single blueberry an inch to the left until the composition is perfect. If an item is out of place, he will fix it immediately. It is an incredible display of aesthetic sense and color theory, proving that the desire for beauty and order is not a uniquely human trait. The albatross, the wanderer of the Southern Ocean. The wandering albatross has the largest wingspan of any living bird, reaching up to 3.5 meters from tip to tip. These giants are built for a life of perpetual motion. They can spend years at sea without ever touching land, sleeping while they glide on the wind. They use a technique called dynamic soaring, harvesting energy from the vertical wind gradients above the waves to stay aloft for thousands of miles with barely a single flap of their wings. An albatross can circle the entire Antarctic continent in just 46 days, traveling over 15,000 kilometers in a single journey. They are the ultimate nomads of the blue, birds that treat the entire southern hemisphere as their backyard and the wind as their only constant companion. The weaver bird's hanging cities. In the savannas of Africa, the sociable weaver bird builds a structure that is less of a nest and more of a permanent apartment complex. These massive mounds of grass and sticks, built into the branches of sturdy trees or atop telephone poles, can weigh over a ton and house up to 100 pairs of birds. The structure is so well insulated that it maintains a comfortable temperature year-round, protecting the birds from the searing heat of the day and the freezing cold of the desert night. These nests are often used for over a century, passed down through generations of birds who continuously repair and expand the grass walls. It is a masterpiece of collective architecture, a haystack in the sky that serves as a bustling, multi-generational city in the middle of the wilderness. The crow's memory of the human face. Crows are not just intelligent. They have a memory that is hauntingly similar to our own. Research has shown that crows can recognize individual human faces and remember them for years. If a person treats a crow poorly, that crow will remember the dangerous face and communicate this information to the rest of the flock through loud alarm calls. Even more impressively, the crows can pass this knowledge down to their offspring, who will react with hostility toward the specific person even if they have never met them before. This cultural transmission of information means that in the world of the crow, a person's reputation can precede them through the trees, a reminder that we are being watched and remembered by a mind that is far more complex than we often imagine. The patient vigil of the green sea turtle. Across the velvet blue expanses of the world's oceans, the green sea turtle embarks on a journey that spans decades and thousands of miles, guided by a map written in the Earth's magnetic field and the subtle chemical signatures of the sea. After wandering the open oceans for 20 or 30 years, a period biologists call the lost years, A female turtle will return to the exact same beach where she first crawled out of her shell. To reach this specific sliver of sand, she must navigate across featureless oceanic deserts with the precision of a master mariner, sensing the invisible magnetic contours of the planet. Once she drags her heavy, barnacle-crusted shell onto the shore, she enters a trance-like state, her eyes streaming with salty tears that clear her glands of excess salt as she deposits her clutch in the warm, protective sand. The hatchlings that emerge weeks later will scramble toward the moonlit horizon, beginning a cycle of wandering that will last for half a century. They are the ancient voyagers of the deep, creatures of two worlds that bridge the gap between the solid, unmoving earth and the infinite, restless currents of the sea, carrying the memory of their birthplace across the vastness of time and tide. The immortal resilience of the tardigrade, often called water bears due to their plump, eight-legged appearance and slow, lumbering gait under a microscope, tardigrades are perhaps the most indestructible beings in the known universe. These microscopic marvels can survive conditions that would instantly end any other form of life. The total vacuum of outer space, pressures 6 times greater than those found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and temperatures ranging from a hair above absolute zero to well above the boiling point of water. Their secret is a process called cryptobiosis, where they retract their legs, expel nearly all the water from their bodies, and shrivel into a dry, dormant ball known as a ton. In this state, their metabolism slows to a staggering 0.01% of normal, and they replace their cellular water with a unique sugar that turns their insides into a protective glass. They can remain dead for decades, floating through the dust or frozen in ice, only to spring back to life within minutes of touching a single drop of water. They remind us that life, in its smallest and humblest forms, possesses a stubborn cosmic endurance that defies the very laws of biological decay and the harshness of the interstellar void. The thermal alchemy of the Komodo dragon. On the rugged, sun-scorched volcanic islands of Indonesia, the Komodo dragon reigns as the world's largest lizard, a living relic of a prehistoric age that seems to have stepped out of a fossil record. These giants are masters of energy conservation and thermal alchemy, spending hours draped over sun-warmed rocks to soak up the infrared heat required to power their massive, muscular frames. While they were long thought to rely on bacteria-ridden saliva to kill their prey, modern imaging has revealed that they possess complex, multi-chambered venom glands that prevent blood from clotting and cause a catastrophic drop in blood pressure. Despite their heavy, armored appearance, they can sprint at 20 kilometers per hour and swim miles between islands in search of food, their flickering tongues tasting the air for chemical traces of a meal miles away. Even more mysterious is their ability to reproduce through parthenogenesis, where a female can produce viable offspring without a male, effectively creating a self-sustaining lineage when stranded on a remote island. They are the apex of reptilian evolution, ancient shadows moving through the tall yellow grass with a patient, cold-blooded intelligence that has remained unchanged for millions of years. The shifting canvas of the mimic octopus. Deep in the silty, unforgiving waters of the Indo-Pacific lives the mimic octopus, a creature that has mastered the art of psychological warfare through total physical transformation. Most octopuses can change their color and texture to blend into the background, but the mimic octopus takes this a step further by impersonating the shape and behavior of other dangerous animals to deter specific predators. When threatened by a territorial damselfish, it may tuck 6 of its arms away and undulate the remaining 2 to resemble a venomous sea snake. When moving across open, vulnerable sand, it flattens its body and trails its arms to look exactly like a poisonous sole or flatfish. It can even mimic the appearance of a giant crab, a stinging jellyfish, or a sea anemone, choosing its costume based on the specific threat it perceives in its environment. With a brain-to-body ratio larger than many reptiles, it is a brilliant 3-pound strategist wrapped in a fluid, boneless body. a shapeshifter that survives not through brute strength, but by convincing the world it is something far more lethal than a soft-bodied mollusk. The subterranean symphony of the cicada. In the quiet, lightless world beneath our feet, billions of cicada nymphs are currently living a slow-motion life that lasts for nearly 2 decades. These periodical cicadas are unique to the eastern forests of North America, spending 13 or 17 years attached to tree roots, sipping fermented sap in a state of perpetual, subterranean childhood. They count the passing years by sensing the seasonal changes in the nutrient fluid of the trees they feed on, waiting for a signal that only they can hear. Then, on a single humid spring evening, when the soil temperature hits exactly 18 degrees Celsius, they emerge by the millions in a synchronized event that overwhelms the senses of every predator in the forest. They climb the nearest vertical surface, shed their golden, translucent husks, and take to the sky to begin a deafening, rhythmic chorus that can reach 100 decibels, vibrating the very air around them. This massive emergence is a biological flood, a strategy known as predator satiation that ensures that even after every bird and squirrel has eaten its fill, millions of cicadas remain to lay the eggs of the next generation. It is a long, patient investment in the future. A 17-year wait for a few brief, sun-drenched weeks of song, flight, and the eternal continuation of their ancient line. The hidden giant of the fungal kingdom. Deep beneath the pine-scented soil of the Blue Mountains in eastern Oregon lies an organism so vast and ancient that it challenges our very definition of what a single living thing can be. This is a specimen of Armillaria ostoyi, commonly known as the honey mushroom, but it is far from the small cluster of golden caps you might imagine sprouting from a rotted log. This single individual, consisting of an interconnected web of life, covers nearly 2,400 acres of forest, an area equivalent to almost 1,700 football fields, and is estimated to be between 2,400 and 8,000 years old. While you might occasionally see small, honey-colored mushrooms popping up at the base of trees in the autumn, these are merely the fruit of the organism, the briefest expression of its existence. The true body is a massive, subterranean network of black, root-like filaments called rhizomorphs that stretch through the dark earth like a nervous system. These filaments hunt for nutrients, occasionally parasitizing the roots of trees to sustain the giant's growth. It is a silent, subterranean titan, an ancient and invisible empire that has been slowly breathing, expanding, and claiming the forest floor since the dawn of human civilization, proving that the most massive lives on Earth are often the ones we never see, existing right beneath our feet in a patient, immortal silence. The living fortress of the termite cathedral. In the sun-baked, iron-rich plains of northern Australia and the sweeping African savanna, tiny insects barely a few millimeters long build skyscrapers that can tower over 9 meters into the air, structures that, relative to their size, dwarf any human achievement. These termite mounds are masterpieces of bioengineering, constructed from a meticulous mixture of soil, saliva, and recycled organic matter that dries to the hardness of concrete under the relentless tropical sun. However, the true mystery lies not in the walls, but within the internal architecture that allows life to thrive in extreme heat. To prevent the colony of millions from suffocating or overheating, the termites have designed a sophisticated passive ventilation system. A central chimney allows hot air generated by the colony's metabolism to rise and escape through the top, while a series of underground tunnels and peripheral cooling vents pull in fresh, oxygen-rich air from the base. This lungs of the earth design maintains a constant internal temperature and carbon dioxide level with staggering precision. Some species, known as magnetic termites, even align their wedge-shaped mounds on a precise north-south axis to minimize the surface area exposed to the intense midday sun, ensuring the interior remains a cool, humid sanctuary. It is a collective intelligence that functions without a blueprint, a living fortress where millions work in perfect, silent synchrony to defy the desert's heat. The deep-sea architecture of the glass sponge. In the crushing, freezing depths of the Pacific Ocean, where the weight of the water is a physical burden and light is but a distant memory, lives the Venus flower basket. This species of glass sponge grows an intricate, lattice-like skeleton made entirely of silica, the primary component of glass, harvested from the surrounding water. These sponges spin the minerals into delicate, hair-like fibers that are structurally superior to any man-made fiber optic cable, possessing a fracture-resistant geometry that engineers are still struggling to replicate. The resulting structure is a geometric marvel of nested cylinders and diagonal braces that can withstand the immense pressure of the abyss while remaining flexible enough to sway with the slow, cold deep-sea currents. Even more poetic is the biological relationship they host. A pair of tiny shrimp often enters the sponge's lattice when they are young, eventually growing too large to ever leave through the crystalline bars. They spend their entire lives protected within the glass walls, cleaning the sponge in exchange for food trapped by its filter-feeding mechanism. When the sponge finally dies, its shimmering, skeletal cage remains, a hauntingly beautiful monument of biological glass that has stood for centuries in the silent dark, a shimmering sanctuary in the deep-sea void, the ancient memory of the Greenland shark. In the frigid, ink-black waters of the North Atlantic and the Arctic, a predator moves with such agonizing slowness that it seems to be part of the shifting ocean floor itself. The Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate on the planet, with some individuals estimated to be over 400 years old. This means there are sharks swimming today that were born before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, sharks that were already centuries old during the American Civil War, and have survived into our modern age of satellites and silicon. Their secret to such extreme longevity is a glacially slow metabolism, fueled by the near-freezing temperatures of their habitat. They grow at a rate of only about 1 centimeter per year and do not reach reproductive maturity until they have navigated the dark for roughly 150 years. Many of these ancient giants are nearly blind due to specialized bioluminescent parasites that attach to their eyes. Yet they navigate the lightless depths with an uncanny sense of smell and the ability to detect the faint electromagnetic pulses of living creatures. They are the silent, wandering ghosts of the deep, moving through the water like slow-motion time capsules that bridge the gap between human eras. To look upon one is to look upon a creature that has witnessed the slow cooling of the oceans over centuries, carrying 400 years of planetary history in a heart that beats only a few times a minute. They remind us that life, when slowed to a near halt, can endure far beyond the frantic pace of the world above. The radiant mystery of the moonbow. While almost everyone has seen the brilliant arc of a rainbow after a summer storm, few have witnessed its elusive and ethereal nocturnal cousin, the moonbow or lunar rainbow. This rare atmospheric phenomenon occurs only when a bright, near-full moon sits low in the sky, positioned perfectly opposite a curtain of falling rain or the constant spray of a powerful waterfall. Because moonlight is much fainter than direct sunlight, the colors of a moonbow are often too dim for the human eye to perceive in their full saturation, usually appearing as a ghostly, shimmering white arc of light bending against the ink-black sky like a pale bridge to another world. However, long-exposure photography reveals a secret the eye cannot see. The full spectrum of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet is truly there, hidden in the velvet shadows of the night. To stand before a moonbow at a place like Victoria Falls or Cumberland Falls is to witness a moment of profound, quiet magic. A bridge of light that exists only when the lunar cycle, the clarity of the air, and the Earth's weather align in perfect, silent harmony. It is a secret color palette revealed only to those who watch the night, a delicate reminder that beauty persists even when the sun has set and the world is draped in shadow. The eternal heartbeat of the Pando Aspen Grove. Deep in the Fish Lake National Forest of Utah, There is a forest that is actually a single living being, a sprawling giant known as Pando, or the trembling giant. While it looks like a collection of 47,000 individual quaking aspen trees, every single trunk is genetically identical and connected by a massive underground root system that spans over 100 acres. This single organism is estimated to weigh more than 6,000 tons, making it the heaviest living thing on the planet. Its roots have been pushing through the soil for an estimated 80,000 years, meaning this singular life force has survived through ice ages, massive wildfires, and the entire span of human civilization. When you stand in the middle of this grove, you aren't standing among a crowd of individuals. You are standing within the body of a creature that has been whispering to itself through the earth since the late Pleistocene. The true magic of Pando reveals itself in the autumn, when the internal clock of the organism triggers a synchronized transformation. Because the trees share a single genetic code and a single circulatory system, all 47,000 trees turn a brilliant, shimmering gold at the exact same moment, creating a landscape that glows with a uniform, heavenly light. When the wind blows, the leaves tremble in a collective rustle that sounds like the breath of the earth itself. It is a masterpiece of biological unity, a reminder that underneath the surface of our world, there are connections far deeper and more ancient than our eyes can see. To walk through Pando is to witness the endurance of a single soul that has weathered nearly 100 millennia of change, standing firm while the rest of the world rises and falls around its roots. The bioluminescent glow of the Dragon's Breath Cave. Deep beneath the arid surface of the Namibian desert lies a hidden world of water and light known as Dragon's Breath Cave, home to the largest non-subglacial underground lake on Earth. This vast, subterranean reservoir is so deep that divers have yet to find its bottom, and the air inside is perfectly still, held at a constant temperature that never wavers. In this absolute darkness, life has evolved in total isolation from the sun's rays for millions of years. Here, the water is crystal clear and home to the rarest fish in the world, the golden catfish, which is completely blind and relies on vibration to navigate its liquid cathedral. But the most haunting feature of such deep earth sanctuaries is the foxfire or bioluminescent fungi that sometimes cling to the damp, mineral-rich walls, casting a faint, ghostly green glow that illuminates the stalactites like a subterranean aurora. This light is the result of a slow chemical reaction called luciferase, which produces a cold light that attracts the few insects that find their way into the depths. To an explorer sitting in the silence of the cave, the faint radiance creates a surreal atmosphere where time seems to have stopped entirely, and the weight of the mountains above is forgotten in the presence of this living light. The cave acts as a giant, silent lung, breathing with the subtle changes in atmospheric pressure, a hidden heart beating in the darkness of the African continent. It is a sanctuary of quiet and shadow, a reminder that the earth holds secrets in its deepest pockets that have never felt the warmth of a sunrise, yet possess a haunting, shimmering beauty all their own. The ancient symphony of the singing sands. In the most remote and silent corners of the world's great deserts, from the shifting dunes of the Gobi to the vast, empty quarters of the Sahara, the earth possesses a haunting voice known as the singing sands. This phenomenon is not merely a whistle of the wind through the peaks, but a deep, percussive drone that can reach the volume of a low-flying plane. For centuries, nomadic travelers attributed these booming sounds to the voices of desert spirits, the shifting of buried cities, or the ghosts of ancient armies marching beneath the dunes. The sound is often so low and resonant that it can be felt in the chest of anyone standing nearby, a subterranean vibration that seems to emanate from the very heart of the planet. The secret to this desert melody lies in the specific physics of the sand grains themselves. To sing, the sand must be nearly perfectly spherical, between 0.1 and 0.5 millimeters in diameter, and possess a high silica content. Most importantly, the sand must be incredibly dry, usually after months of intense sun has baked away every trace of moisture. When a gust of wind or a passing traveler triggers a miniature landslide on the leeward slope of a dune, the layers of sand begin to slide over one another. This movement causes the grains to collide and vibrate in a synchronized rhythm, turning the entire face of the dune into a massive, natural loudspeaker. What makes this mystery even more profound is that different dunes produce different notes. Scientists have discovered that the frequency of the sound, the pitch of the desert song, is determined by the size of the sand grains. Smaller grains produce a higher-pitched hum, while larger grains create a deep, growling bass. In some parts of the world, like the Alaskara Desert in Oman, the dunes can produce a complex chord, as different layers of sand with varying grain sizes slide simultaneously. This creates a multi-layered acoustic experience that can last for several minutes, echoing across the silent landscape like a somber, shifting organ. To experience the singing sands is to feel the ground become a living, vibrating entity beneath your feet. As the sand cascades down the slope in a fluid, liquid motion, the friction generates an electrostatic charge, which some believe helps synchronize the vibrations of the billions of individual grains. This collective resonance is so powerful that it can be heard up to 10 kilometers away. It is a masterpiece of natural synchronization, where the chaotic movement of individual particles is transformed into a coherent, melodic pulse that defies the typical silence of the wasteland. As you drift off to sleep, imagine the vast, golden hills of the desert stretching toward a violet horizon. In this world of heat and shadow, the earth is not a static pile of dust, but a resonant instrument waiting for the touch of the wind. The deep, steady thrum of the singing sands acts as a grounding rhythm, a tectonic lullaby that has hummed through the empty quarters of the world for millennia. It is a reminder that even in the most desolate places, there is a hidden harmony, a slow and ancient music that speaks of the patient, grinding power of the Earth's surface. The invisible rivers of the Amazonian sky. High above the dense, emerald canopy of the Amazon rainforest, there flows a river larger than any found on the surface of the Earth, yet it remains entirely invisible to the naked eye. These are the flying rivers, massive currents of water vapor that are pumped into the atmosphere by the billions of trees below through a process called evapotranspiration. While a large river like the Amazon moves trillions of gallons of water toward the sea, these aerial rivers move in even greater volume in the opposite direction, carrying life-giving moisture from the heart of the jungle across the entire South American continent. It is a hidden, skybound ocean that dictates the survival of ecosystems thousands of miles away. The engine of this celestial river is the incredible biological power of the trees. A single large rainforest tree, with its vast network of roots and leaves, can release over 1,000 liters of water into the sky in a single 24-hour period. When you multiply this by the hundreds of billions of trees in the basin, the result is a vertical geyser of moisture so powerful that it creates its own weather system. This water vapor does not simply drift away. It forms a concentrated stream that is pushed westward by the trade winds, creating a flowing ribbon of humidity that hangs in the air like a shimmering, translucent veil above the green abyss. As this massive river of vapor travels toward the west, it eventually encounters the towering, jagged wall of the Andes Mountains. Unable to pass over the high peaks, the moisture is forced to turn southward, acting as a global conveyor belt that waters the fertile plains of southern Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. Without this constant upward breath of the forest, these regions, which currently feed much of the world, would collapse into a parched, dusty desert. The trees are not just passive inhabitants of the land. They are the active architects of the sky, reaching up to the heavens to recycle the rain and ensure the continuation of the water cycle. This closed-loop system is one of the most sophisticated examples of planetary self-regulation. The forest effectively waters itself by creating the very clouds that will later break into rain, ensuring that the humidity remains high enough to sustain the delicate tropical life below. It is a delicate balance of biology and physics, where the deep roots of the jungle are inextricably linked to the highest reaches of the atmosphere. When you look at a satellite image of the Amazon, you are seeing a massive green lung that is exhaling a liquid atmosphere, a silent miracle of hydration that keeps the heart of the world beating in a steady, humid rhythm. Tonight, let your mind drift upward to join these flying rivers, floating effortlessly on a current of warm, moist air. Imagine the vastness of the forest below, a sea of leaves exhaling a gentle mist that rises to meet the stars. You are part of this endless cycle, a slow and cooling journey across a continent of shadow and light. The sky is full of water, the earth is full of roots, and everything is connected by this invisible, flowing grace. Sleep now, knowing that the world is breathing for you, moving its great oceans through the air in a silent, eternal loop of renewal. The immortal bloom of the resurrection plant. In the scorched, unforgiving deserts of the American Southwest and the Chihuahuan plains of Mexico, there exists a botanical wonder known as Selaginella lepidophylla, or more commonly, the resurrection plant. While most flora would wither and perish under the blistering heat and lack of moisture, this plant has mastered the art of cheating death through a biological state of suspended animation. During periods of extreme drought, which can last for years at a time, the plant undergoes a dramatic physical transformation. It loses up to 95% of its water, causing its green, fern-like fronds to curl inward into a tight, brittle brown ball that looks like a stray clump of dead twigs or a small, desiccated tumbleweed. This state of dormancy is not merely a survival tactic. It is a profound biological pause. Inside the curled-up ball, the plant produces high concentrations of a unique sugar called trehalose, which acts as a protective glass for its internal cells. This sugar prevents the plant's delicate membranes from collapsing and protects its DNA from damage while it waits for a reprieve from the sun. In this desiccated form, the resurrection plant can be blown across the desert sands for years, enduring temperatures that would cook the seeds of other species, existing in a gray area between life and death that defies the typical rhythms of the botanical world. The true miracle occurs when the first drops of a rare desert rain finally touch the plant's parched exterior. The moment it is submerged or splashed by water, the cells begin to rehydrate with astonishing speed through a process known as hydroxy. Within just a few hours, the brown, brittle ball begins to unfurl, spreading its fronds wide like a blooming flower. As the water flows back into its tissues, the hidden chlorophyll is reactivated, and the plant turns a lush, vibrant green almost before your eyes. It is a resurrection in the most literal sense, a sudden and violent return to vitality after a decade of silence. This ability to spring back to life allows the resurrection plant to seize the very brief windows of opportunity that the desert provides. It does not have to wait for seeds to germinate or roots to grow. It is already fully formed and ready to photosynthesize the moment moisture is available. It drinks deeply, repairs any minor cellular damage sustained during its long sleep, and quickly prepares for the next inevitable dry spell. It is a master of the long game, a creature that views time not in seasons, but in the rare, erratic pulses of water that sustain the desert's hidden heart. As you settle into your blankets, think of the patient endurance of this desert traveler. Like the plant, your body knows how to rest, how to curl inward and wait for the morning to bring a fresh sense of life. Imagine the cool rain falling on the dry earth, the scent of petrichor rising into the air, and the slow, steady opening of the green fronds. You are safe in your own state of rest, a quiet pause that prepares you for the world to come. Let the image of the unfurling plant guide you into a deep, restorative sleep, where time slows down and the only thing that matters is the steady rhythm of your breath. The midnight sun and the great polar silence. At the very crown and base of our world, within the Arctic and Antarctic circles, the familiar rhythm of a 24-hour day dissolves into a much grander, slower celestial cycle. This is the realm of the midnight sun, a phenomenon caused by the Earth's 23.5 degrees axial tilt as it journeys around the sun. During the summer months, the sun never actually sets. Instead, it performs a continuous, slow-motion loop around the horizon, dipping low enough to paint the sky in shades of amber and rose but never disappearing beneath the edge of the world. In these regions, night is merely a word for a slightly dimmer version of day, where the shadows grow long and golden, but the light never truly leaves the landscape. This perpetual daylight creates a surreal, dreamlike atmosphere that has a profound effect on the natural world. Migratory birds arrive by the millions, taking advantage of the constant light to feed their young around the clock, while the tundra blooms in a frantic, colorful explosion of life that must complete its entire cycle before the sun eventually departs. For a human observer, the lack of darkness can be disorienting yet deeply peaceful. There is no end to the day, no sudden transition to shadow, only a soft, eternal twilight that feels as though time has been suspended in a jar of golden honey. The world feels vast, quiet, and impossibly ancient under the watchful eye of a sun that refuses to sleep. However, the Earth's tilt is a double-edged sword, and for every month of eternal light, there is a corresponding period of polar night. As the planet moves to the opposite side of its orbit, the poles lean away from the sun, plunging the landscape into a darkness that lasts for months at a time. During this period, the sun remains hidden below the horizon, and the world is illuminated only by the moon, the stars, and the flickering, neon curtains of the aurora borealis. This is the great polar silence, a time when the wind howls over the ice and the temperature drops to levels that freeze the very air, creating a landscape that feels more like the surface of a distant moon than a part of our home planet. Animals that stay through the polar night have evolved incredible strategies to survive the deep freeze. Polar bears roam the sea ice in the dim starlight, while seals huddle in breathing holes beneath meters of frozen ocean. The silence of the Arctic winter is absolute, broken only by the sharp crack of shifting ice or the distant moan of the wind. It is a season of profound introspection for the planet, a deep, icy exhale where the Earth gathers its strength in the dark. In this stillness, the stars seem brighter and closer than anywhere else on Earth, casting a cold, blue light over the endless fields of snow. Let yourself drift into this vast, quiet landscape, where the pressures of time and schedules are replaced by the slow tilting of the stars. Imagine the soft, golden light of the midnight sun warming your face, or the deep, velvet blue of the polar night wrapping around you like a heavy, protective quilt. You are at the edge of the world, where the rules of day and night no longer apply. There is only the long, slow heartbeat of the seasons and the peace of the frozen wild. Close your eyes and let the great polar silence settle over your thoughts, carrying you away into a dreamless, crystalline sleep. The bioluminescent symphony of Mosquito Bay. Hidden along the southern shore of the island of Yekes lies a place where the water seems to have swallowed the stars. Mosquito Bay is widely considered the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world, a rare ecological jewel where every movement in the water triggers a burst of neon blue light. This ethereal glow is not caused by magic or minerals, but by millions of microscopic organisms known as dinoflagellates. These tiny creatures, specifically Pyridinium bahamense, possess a biological burglar alarm that causes them to emit a flash of light whenever the water around them is agitated. When a fish swims through the bay, or a boat leaves a wake, it creates a shimmering, liquid trail of electric blue that illuminates the darkness of the Caribbean night. The science behind this glow is a masterpiece of chemical efficiency. Inside each microscopic cell, a molecule called luciferin reacts with oxygen, catalyzed by an enzyme called luciferase. This reaction produces cold light, meaning nearly 100% of the energy is converted into light rather than heat, a feat human light bulbs cannot hope to match. In Mosquito Bay, the concentration of these organisms is staggering, sometimes reaching over 700,000 individuals per gallon of water. This density is maintained by the unique geography of the bay, which has a narrow opening to the ocean and is surrounded by protective mangroves. These trees drop their leaves into the water, providing the vital nutrients these tiny light bearers need to thrive in a glowing, underwater metropolis. To witness the bay at midnight is to see the laws of nature rewritten in light. If you were to dip your hand into the water, it would come out dripping with glowing diamonds that shimmer for a few seconds before fading back into the dark. Rain falling on the surface creates a spectacle of 1,000 tiny, blue explosions, turning the bay into a pulsing, liquid galaxy. It is a world where the boundary between the sea and the sky dissolves, and for a moment, you are not standing on the edge of an island, but drifting through a dream made of living neon. The water does not just reflect the light, it generates its own, a silent and cold fire that burns in the heart of the tropical night. This phenomenon serves as a vital reminder of the interconnectedness of life. The health of the glowing water is directly tied to the health of the surrounding mangrove forests and the purity of the night sky. If the water becomes too salty or the light pollution from nearby towns too bright, the blue fire dims and eventually disappears. It is a fragile, luminous miracle that requires perfect balance to exist. In the silence of the bay, the only sound is the gentle lap of the waves, but the visual noise of the light is a deafening testament to the hidden energy of the natural world. It is a place where the smallest life forms on Earth put on the greatest show, a reminder that even the tiniest spark can illuminate the vastest darkness. As you prepare for sleep, imagine yourself floating on the surface of this glowing bay. The water is warm, the air is thick with the scent of salt and jasmine, and every time you breathe, the water beneath you ripples with a soft, blue pulse. You are drifting in a sea of stars, weightless and calm, surrounded by a light that is both ancient and new. Let the rhythmic glowing of the waves soothe your mind, washing away the stresses of the day. You are part of this luminous world, a quiet light in a vast, peaceful ocean. Close your eyes and let the blue glow guide you into a deep, shimmering sleep. The abyssal silence of the Mariana Trench. 7 miles beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean lies the Mariana Trench, the deepest and most mysterious scar on the Earth's crust. This is the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the god of the underworld, and it is a place of absolute darkness and unimaginable pressure. At the bottom, in the Challenger Deep, the water column above exerts a weight of over 1,000 atmospheres, the equivalent of having an elephant stand on your thumb for every square inch of your body. In this crushing environment, the temperature hovers just above freezing, and the sun's rays haven't been seen for millions of years. It is the most remote place on our planet, a silent, pressurized cathedral of silt and stone, the secret compass of the monarch. Every autumn, millions of monarch butterflies perform an epic migration from North America to a specific cluster of Oyamel fir trees in central Mexico. They navigate using a complex, time-compensated sun compass and a backup magnetic sensor located in their antennae. Remarkably, no single butterfly ever makes the full round trip. It is a multi-generational relay where the great-grandchild somehow finds the exact same tree their ancestor left months prior, guided by a biological map etched into their very DNA. The deep-sea dragonfish. In the midnight zone of the ocean, the dragonfish uses a red light flashlight to hunt. Most deep-sea creatures can only see blue light, but the dragonfish produces a red bioluminescent beam from a gland beneath its eye. This allows it to hunt in total stealth, illuminating its prey with a color of light that is invisible to almost everyone else in the dark, essentially using night vision goggles of its own making. The whispering forest of the eucalyptus. Eucalyptus trees are master survivalists in fire-prone landscapes. Their leaves contain volatile oils that actually encourage fires to burn hotter and faster, clearing out competing species. While other trees perish, the eucalyptus has dormant buds hidden deep beneath its thick, fire-resistant bark. Just weeks after a devastating blaze, these buds burst through the charred trunks, turning the blackened forest into a vibrant tower of new green growth. The glass rain of HD 189733b. Beyond our solar system lies a deep blue planet that looks peaceful from afar, but its beauty hides a nightmare. Because of its extreme heat and silicate-rich atmosphere, the rain on this exoplanet is composed of molten glass. Combined with winds that scream at thousands of miles per hour, this glass rain doesn't fall downward. It shears sideways, creating a global storm of flying shards that would shred anything in its path. The cuckoo's mimicry. The common cuckoo is a brood parasite that never builds its own nest. Instead, it sneaks into the nest of another bird and lays an egg that perfectly mimics the color and pattern of the host's eggs. When the cuckoo chick hatches, it instinctively pushes the other eggs out of the nest, tricking the foster parents into dedicating all their energy to raising a giant, foreign chick that will soon outgrow them. The sonic boom of the pistol shrimp. The tiny pistol shrimp possesses a specialized claw that acts like a high-tech weapon. When it snaps the claw shut, it creates a high-pressure cavitation bubble that reaches temperatures nearly as hot as the surface of the sun. The collapse of this bubble produces a loud sonic pop and a brief flash of light that stuns or kills its prey instantly from a distance, making it one of the loudest creatures in the ocean. The immortal jellyfish. The Turritopsis dohrnii has discovered a biological fountain of youth. When it becomes injured, sick, or reaches the end of its natural lifespan, it can revert its cells back to their earliest polyp stage through a process called transdifferentiation. Essentially, it transforms back into a baby and begins its life cycle all over again. Theoretically, this process can repeat indefinitely, making it the only known immortal animal on Earth. The Blood Falls of Antarctica. In the McMurdo Dry Valleys, a bright crimson waterfall pours out of the Taylor Glacier into a frozen lake. This Blood Falls is caused by a subterranean reservoir of hypersaline water that has been trapped under the ice for millions of years. The water is incredibly rich in iron, and the moment it touches the oxygen in the air, it rusts instantly, turning the waterfall a deep, startling red against the white ice. The star-nosed mole's speed. The star-nosed mole is the world's fastest eater. Its unique nose is covered in thousands of tiny touch sensors, making it more sensitive than a human hand. It can identify and consume a piece of prey in a fraction of a second, moving so fast that it pushes the limits of the vertebrate nervous system. It processes information at the maximum speed that neurons can fire, allowing it to see its world through touch. The memory of water. The way water interacts with our planet remains one of its greatest mysteries. Every drop of water on Earth today is billions of years old, recycled through the bodies of dinosaurs, ancient trees, and the first humans. We are drinking the same water that once sat in primordial seas, a liquid archive that has witnessed the entire history of life on our blue marble, moving in an endless loop from the deep oceans to the high atmosphere. The journey through these 100 wonders of our world reveals a planet that is far more vibrant, interconnected, and mysterious than we often realize. From the silent, glowing depths of the Mariana Trench to the invisible rivers flowing through the sky, nature operates on a scale of time and complexity that is both humbling and beautiful. Each fact is a reminder that we live in a masterpiece of biological engineering and cosmic coincidence, where even the smallest jellyfish or a single grain of desert sand has a story that spans eons. As you reflect on these marvels, let the frantic pace of the modern world fall away. Imagine the slow, steady heartbeat of the Greenland shark in the icy dark, or the gentle, synchronized flickering of fireflies in a distant forest. The same ancient water that once quenched the thirst of dinosaurs is the air you breathe and the rhythm of your own pulse. You are a part of this grand, shimmering tapestry, held safe by the same laws of nature that guide the monarch butterfly across continents. May these stories of the Earth's endurance and beauty fill your thoughts with a sense of peace. The world is quiet now, resting under the watchful gaze of the stars and the hidden strength of the Wood Wide Web. Sleep deeply, knowing that you are cradled by a planet that never stops breathing, never stops growing, and never ceases to be magnificent. Good night and sweet dreams.